All right, Bannock County Commissioners are back in session as the Board of Equalization. I'm Commissioner Huff and Chairman of the Board. The purpose of this hearing is to ensure that the assessments are fair, equitable, and in accordance with state law. According to Idaho Code Section 63-502, our role here today is confined strictly to assuring that the market value for assessment purposes of your property has been properly determined by the assessor. We are not here to discuss taxes. As the taxpayer, you have the burden of proof, which means you need to provide a sufficient amount of factual evidence to support your claim as your burden of proof. What does sufficient factual evidence mean? It means recent sales, comparables in your area, professional appraisals, sales receipts, evidence of property condition, damage or limitations, and photographs or other documentation that will impact the market value. This is a formal hearing, and we ask that all testimony be respectful, relevant, and based on factual information, not opinion. All individuals providing testimony today will be sworn in. Each party will be given 3 minutes to present their case, which will then be followed by a response from the assessor and/or questions from the board. Once the decision is made, which will be based on the standard of evidence that is presented and the factors, once the decision is made, you'll receive a letter outlining the decision. If you choose to appeal the decision, you have the option to do so in the district court or at the State Board of Appeals. So with that, all those who are going to testify today, please rise and we'll have Nancy swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear that any testimony you're about to give today shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay, we'll start off with Chris Pine. Chris, come on up. And Chris, we've got some information, so we might not even have you testify, but the assessor, go ahead.
Oh, okay, here then.
So, this is, again, due to the fire that was up on City Creek on June 20th by Idaho Code 63-602X. There is a casualty law, and Chris came to us prior to the second Monday in June and filed this. And so Chris does have a house on this property, but it wasn't bothered, and the acre that the house sits on is okay. So the value that we're looking at is $278,822, and we divided that by 365 days, came up with a per day value of $763.90. And if we took that by 194 days, we are canceling $148,197, and we'll have a total value on that land of $136.25. And the statute does state that this is just a 1-year exemption. So in a year, that value can go back on to whatever it is at that time.
Okay. So do you understand what she's...
Kinda, that was quite the math.
It was good math. Basically, she reduced the property value from the land value from 278,000 down to 136,025.
Mm-hmm.
130,625.
130,625.
625.
Okay. See, it just keeps going down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. So, do you have any questions about that?
Well, I don't about that. Probably leading on to what happened, if I can talk about that a little bit.
We're just here to talk about the property value. So we understand the fire.
Well, sure. I guess the property value up there, we've had several discussions there, but that's a different story. But most of that ground up there is like 50-60% grade.
Correct.
And the fire department come through there with their dozer, I think it was probably a D8, and they made a couple of tracks through there.
Yep.
And I don't know what the hell's going to happen now, because that ground is so unstable. If you kick the ground, you can bet by springtime you're going to have cockleburrs, tumbleweeds, or cheatgrass, any number of things. It took us probably 3 years to get some of the ground we disturbed to get it to grow something. So what do we do?
Yeah.
That's why you're getting $148,000 relief.
Yep, and we talked to your neighbor this morning about that and the fear of the erosion and stuff, and so we'll take a look at it again next year, but for right now, you got a pretty good
That's it,
deduction.
huh?
Yep,
Which neighbor was it, if I can ask?
Actually,
It was Brendan.
Oh, right.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
are you the one that told him about this project?
I am.
And that's why he was here.
Yeah.
Because I got told to come
He beat
and
me,
file.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, did we have a motion on that?
We did not.
All
Can
right,
I just add a couple of things to that?
Sure.
Or are we within our 3-minute
yeah,
time
we
frame?
didn't really give you 3 minutes. 'Cause we-
Okay.
So go ahead,
Okay.
I'll give you a minute.
All right,
How's
just to add to that we bought the property to protect it because we want to retain wildlife habitat. And both Chris and I are members of the Idaho Master Naturalists. And we do have pollinator gardens that are recognized by the Sagebrush Steppe Land Trust as a habitat haven. And one of the things we wanted to do this summer with Idaho Fish and Game is we're studying monarch migration. So we had a milkweed patch that's been destroyed. And because the monarchs are in such a huge decline, I mean, this has been going on for the past 20 years, but we don't know how we will rehabilitate that and any efforts, but we definitely appreciate your help in providing resources or other information as to how we might rehabilitate our land, because obviously it's devastating to all the wildlife. There's and there's so much of the land that the wildlife rely on. So yeah, if there's some way that we can do that, I don't know if we're going to be able to remediate that in a year. So I guess we'll take a look at that in a year's time. But
Yep.
it's a huge, yeah, it's been a huge disaster in our family, I guess.
We can appreciate that.
You know, the worst part is
What's that?
the black dust that blows into your house.
Yeah, I rode my bike up there the other day, and
Yeah.
that black dust is nasty. So,
Yeah, yeah.
all right, with
Okay.
that, I'll accept the motion on that.
Read the parcel number out.
Oh, yeah, on parcel, I'll make it then, on parcel RPR 385-303-1203, I move that we accept the assessor's recommendation of a value of $130,625 with the reduction coming off the value of the land. Any questions? Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. There you go. Thanks, good luck.
Thank you.
Good to see you again.
You too, see you. Okay, next we'll do William. Go ahead and state your name, and then your 3 minutes will begin.
Okay, William Shirtliff. And thank you. And I know that a lot of the things are done by computer, and I appreciate what the assessors do and the time that they spent with me. As I look at the property value and from where, I know everything's gone up drastically, but as we look at everything, I built my house for $184,000 12 years ago or 13 years ago, and it's incrementally increasing faster than most things in the economy other than inflation, I'd like to say, other than that. And so as I look at this, I had an increase of $70,000 from the previous year. And as I look at, the 2024, the assessors came out to my home, they redid the square footage, the house went down, but then all of a sudden we jumped the property $40,000 over the top of what everything was reduced. So it just seems like a perfect storm of a disaster on how fast this is appreciating compared to what we have into it. And I was just wondering, when was the decision made on the property in 2024? Was that for everybody's property across the county, or just this property of mine, the same year that I had this adjusted?
Okay. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, we'll let the assessor respond to your question.
No questions?
Okay.
Oh, wait, go ahead.
Well, I would like to respond to
Yeah.
this question.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry, you got all excited up to me.
So yes, we do look at all properties every single year. We have to do 1/5 of the county, we have to do 1/5 of the county every year, but we do look at all properties. We do an analyzation of them, so all properties are looked at, not just certain properties, every property, we do reevaluate properties, like I said, once every 5 years. So there's a fifth of the county that does get a physical inspection, so to speak. And we do go out there, take new pictures, and really look and see if there's anything different. But by law, we have to look at every property every year.
Okay.
to answer
Any-
that
And
question.
with that, I mean, I'm looking at the property, so in '21, it was 53,000. And then it went up to 83,000 in '22.
Okay.
And then back down to 69,000 in '23. And that's without a BOE or anything else, that's just, so, and then all of a sudden, we're back up to 101,000 in '24. So the roller coaster, why is that happening? I mean, that's a tough question, but
And I am looking at this, and you're right, there was a BOE in 2019 and the BOE in 2021. So I'm wondering, and I'm not sure why it went down so much in 2023. I don't really have an explanation.
and that's my deal, I guess, is
No,
like Mr. Shirtliff saying, is when you go down and then all of a sudden you take a huge jump the next year, it doesn't make sense.
And I don't see anything in the notes as to why that happened.
So, anyway, as we're
Okay.
talking about property specifically, that just,
Right.
it's one of them deals that
Okay,
I ask.
all right. Assessor.
Now
Now you can go if you want.
Thank you. All right. So the property is in McCammon on 1854 Mountain View Drive. It's a nice property in the south part of the county. There's not a lot of sales out there. We always have difficulty finding sales for like houses. And we like to keep as close as we can, but sometimes we have to expand our search for those. And in this particular case, we went all the way from Income down to near Hawkins Reservoir to find a house that's anywhere comparable to what his house is, because he has a very nice house. And but we were able to find some, and we use those comparables. There's a house close to him that sold. It's a different kind of style, roughly the same square footage, but it's, not quite the same grade, So, and as you can see with our comparables, his house kind of falls kind of in the middle of the range that we found. So, along with everybody else, we're dealing with this value increase because of the people want to live in Bannock County, and they're willing to pay good money to buy property here, and the unfortunately, or fortunately, the values of our homes keep increasing because of that. So there's good and bad to that, I suppose. So I would just recommend that we uphold the assessed values.
So I'm still on my horse, because in your comps, one has 5.98 acres, and it's valued at 88,000. And that's an income. And I can tell you, we all know
Well-
that that's very valuable.
Mhm.
And I know
Right.
that the more ground you have, but it's still, the overall value there is, and then the same with the next one, it's an acre, basically, at 63,000, and then the next one's 5 acres, and yeah, that's out in Aramo, so I can see it's a little cheaper, but it's still at 57,000. That's where I'm kind of confused.
Can I answer that? The answer to that is that we take that land value out and at this point. And we're just, when we talk about $186 a square foot, we're not including that land value.
And I don't think Bill's really talking about the
Right.
house, he's talking about his land value, and that's
took care of
that's
the
why
house.
I'm kind of harping on it a little bit, because it's, everything that we're talking about here doesn't quite, so, and I didn't look at his neighbors right around to see everybody in that subdivision he's in, if they're valued the same way, but that's the one that I just, everything that I've looked at, and I brought this up earlier on a different one, because I used Bill's evaluation on a piece of ground that was outside in the county.
Right.
And it
Well,
just,
his house is within city limits.
yes, it is.
And
That's why I think it is. It has some value.
Right.
Where the other one does get charged because they have to have a well and a septic system, so.
there's.
Where does it even out?
And I have those things at my house because I wasn't part of the subdivision, or part of McCammon, Idaho, when we was annexed in.
So you have a well and a subdivision, or
I
a septic?
have a septic.
A septic, okay.
You don't have a well?
Nope,
So
He's on city water.
city water, but
And I can bring up, part of his ground too really isn't accessible. He would have a heck of a time selling part of that off for a building site just because of no sewer. So it's not like, you got 4 acres all flat ground that you could, and it's rocky, it's whatever it is. So I'm tending to agree that I think the land itself is probably overvalued for that particular piece there. How much? I don't know, but I do know that particular property. The other house is just up around the corner from him, but there's no acreage there.
Right.
It's a little dollhouse, there's no question, it's wonderful, but it does not have the view or the privacy or whatever it is. So, but that particular house actually builds your price up because that neighborhood is a good neighborhood. So my only question, I think I would agree the same thing with, I think the land may be a little overvalued.
Anita's been wanting to talk.
Yeah, but if I didn't finish what I was saying, I would have lost it.
I know.
Madam Assessor.
So, we do have a well on this, and so we need to remove that well. You only have a septic, not a well?
that is correct. I'm on
Okay,
city
we
water.
have a well on it, I see, and so we need to, and that's $3,500, right? Is that what, or is that the 6,000?
6,000.
So septic is
3,500 for the
35.
septic.
So
So
does this
we'll
go
be
retro?
taking-
Sorry.
We'll be taking, so we'll be taking $6,000 off that land just for the fact that we have it on as a well.
Right.
So, yeah, just to let you know that.
How come you're only giving a well $6,000?
I mean, that's still,
That's a good question. We just haven't gotten the analysis done on exactly what a well costs.
I bet it's closer to 15 or 20 for a
Correct.
well
it's,
right now.
usually it's 9,500 for the
Yeah.
two together, the well and septic, and that's when I was looking
Yeah.
at
But that's-
ProVal, I saw that, and so we definitely need to take $6,000 at least off that.
Yeah. But
At
that's-
least, she said.
Well, no, I mean, that's, so, we do need to do some more studies to figure out exactly what, but we haven't done that, so we don't want to assign a value and then come back and find out that we're too low or too high. So those studies do need to be done.
Okay.
And to Ernie's point, I've been all over the board with this. It is so frustrating. I mean, you used to be able to predict, I'm up 8%, 10%. I don't even know where I'm going with you, honestly, as far, and I don't give you a fair shake, and I said, oh, here it goes again.
Yeah.
And that's the only time I hardly ever post on Facebook is tax time again, here we go. And I want to get out of that habit. I would just like things to stabilize, and I want it to be fair and equitable. That's all I ask.
Okay, thank you. All right, what do you want to do?
I'd knock $10,000 off of the valuation.
That would include the 6,000 for the well.
Yeah, total of 10,000.
Take it off the land?
No, yes, off the land.
Okay.
So from 101, you'd say to 91,000?
Yeah.
91,591?
Well, just to the land, take the land down to, 591, correct.
Okay.
What are you thinking over there?
And Bill has a wonderful piece of property there. It's probably very unique.
Well, it just increased this morning.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And
thank you for that. I
Trying to-
didn't even know that was there until
Yeah.
my neighbor said, there was a tax sale on some land that I think you thought you owned, and I thought you owned too, because he's the one that sold it to us. So I didn't even was
Yeah.
aware of it until he brought me a paper that was older than it should have been. So, thank you.
this has been a problem as long as I can remember in rural, trying to find comps,
Mhm.
even for sale of property. It is terrible.
Especially going to income.
try to find
I
it,
want to
and-
stay away from income.
And with
That's-
the, and with the time frame that we have to deal with. And I can tell you, Bill, that price of your house is gonna go up.
I
The
agree.
market has increased, there's no question about it. I was amazed when I sold mine, what I got out of it. I mean, I run like a banshee, because I didn't realize how much the demand and the property has gone up. So I do agree that some of these comps here are very difficult, but in lack of any evidence otherwise, I would probably have to support the assessor's land, or on the house with the reduction of the land for no well, and not totally understanding the ups and downs either, so I can live with that.
And
That was a long version of an answer, but it's.
And I appreciate that, and I'm not questioning the house.
Yeah.
They came out and they've spent good time with me, and I fully
Is
understand.
10,000 enough?
Well, I don't think you can do a well for 10,000.
I don't either.
I don't believe that. Give me a second.
And especially, yeah. So the property, the land value was at 83 in
No, it's at-
22?
It's at 101,591.
I know, but
Before,
it was at 83 in 22, and it was at 70 basically in 23.
Well,
So-
actually,
You know,
it's probably not too far off.
no, it's not. And if you take that well off of there, I wouldn't have a problem going to 75 on the land.
inflation, 5.
Because it is 5 acres, or 4 acres, excuse me. It's just under 4 acres, which is a valuable
Effective today. It
asset.
was under 4 acres until.
Until
Yeah,
today.
but 4 acres does add marketability, it does add value, because where you're at, and, with horse pasture, whatever it is, so,
Well, Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion that on parcel RPRMCPM009317, that we uphold the value on the improvements and move the land value to $90,000.
Okay, any further discussion on that?
I'm good for that.
Okay, I think I would be all right with that as well, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Hey,
Appreciate your
Thanks,
service.
Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to figure out what a well costs. Like 15 to 20 grand right now.
Well, it just depends how far you gotta drill.
Well,
If you're up on the bench and they're drilling
how soon
500 feet,
How soon are you gonna get a well drilled at your house? The demand has got to be.
True. Sorry, we'll catch up here.
That's okay.
All right, let's see. Cap Grow, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead and state your names, and then your 3 minutes will begin.
Okay. Name's Jay Arora. Tejas Chaudhary. Owners of the Motel 6 Studio 6 in Chubbuck. We bought the property a couple of years ago. Sales were decent. Seems like there was a lot of post-COVID revenge travel happening in our areas and drive to leisure markets. We've seen sales drop considerably, especially the last couple of years. When we had initially bought the property, we were at like 1.1 million in top line revenue. It's gone down to about 750, which is decreased our bottom line. The NOI margins as well have gone down. Hotels are basically traded with cap rates based upon, treated as an investment with your return metrics in place. Don't really have the greatest location. The area is quite challenging to operate in. Also, the sales have gone down, NOI margins are down. Having said that, I feel like we've lost quite a bit of equity in the deal thus far. So we were hoping for some relief in reduction on the property taxes.
Okay, we're talking value today, not taxes.
Right.
Okay. Anything else you want to add to that? Okay. Questions from the assessor?
Yeah, I have 2 questions. The first one, we're always trying to make sure that we have the details of the property accurate. So the first question would be, What is the current status of the, I believe, in the courtyard of the pool area?
It's closed.
Okay.
We've shut that off.
Just want to make sure, because we've got that reflected
No,
the
that's fine.
same way. And the other was, since the purchase, what are the repairs and/or renovations that have taken place?
So we've renovated about 47 of the rooms. The other ones are still in its original condition.
Have there been any other sorts of repairs that you've had to do?
We've invested in a roof, just try to make the place where we can have repeat clientele. Having purchased it from someone we know, we trusted them, and it wasn't quite the condition that we expected it was going to be in, so there's been a lot of pain in learning just where, you know, things have gone south, so.
No more questions?
Okay, any questions from the board at this time?
Not yet.
Okay. Assessor, the floor is yours.
So when we reviewed this property, one of the things that we are looking at is with a hotel, cost approach is going to be the primary one where we start. And then we're looking at other things like sales, income approach to try to say, is there a situation where we need to take another look at this from a different angle? And when we look at the property overall, we show that after you extract the business personal property that was included in the sale price, the 3.8, that gets us down to about 3 million for the actual real estate. And so that was almost, 2 years ago, I believe, last month, I believe June. So we're looking over the last 2 years of a change in value from the $3 million purchase price to 3.1 where the assessed value is. So from a cost approach, the appreciation of only about $150,000 above the purchase price over 2 years is certainly within reason. When we take a look at the income approach, one of the things that we try to look at is when you have a year with potential declining revenue, we typically feel it's appropriate to take a 3-year average of those revenues. So you're still giving some consideration to that declining revenue. Because if we looked at just this year's revenue and we applied kind of an industry standard of expenses and cap rate, we'd actually come out at about 2.6 million on the income approach if we just looked at this year alone. But without having those previous 2 years, we can't really do that trended average. So there, depending on those financials, there's always the opportunity there. But as we looked at the purchase price from 2 years ago and where everything else was, we did feel that it was still within reason of where today's value sits.
One second. Are you done? Or
Yeah,
are you-
yes.
Okay. All right, question?
Yes, just if you wouldn't mind elaborating on coming up with that 2.6 and which industry standards in terms of, you know, what NOI margins or how you're coming up to that 2.6, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, definitely. So we've talked to a lot of hotel owner operators this year, and one of the prevailing things we've heard is that looking at revenues right now versus that post-COVID situation, those revenues have come down. When we look at those 3-year averages, we see that it's had the biggest impact for this last year, for 2024. And so when we've looked at what are those industry standards that we are seeing there for like an expense ratio, we are seeing expenses right in the 72% range for expenses on what we're seeing across the board. And then for cap rates in this area, we're seeing suggested cap rates of anywhere from 6% to 8.5%. And so when we have looked at the income approach, we've tried to play it conservative, not necessarily at the far end. So we've looked at an 8% cap rate. And a lot of the owner operators that we've talked to have agreed with that. And that's kind of the process we've applied to the other hotels that we've brought before you this month.
Okay. Questions from the board?
Well, I have a little compassion there, because it is a bit of a blighted area. But we've also had people that are buying property in there and bringing that area up. I mean, it has been reflected, and I think it's been reflected when you tell us that there's been an 80% depreciation.
Mm-hmm.
And also what was the 50%? In addition, we have applied a minus 50% adjustment to the property land value. I mean, it looks to me like the assessor's office has gone above and beyond trying to give you every consideration and break. So,
What,
when do you ever catch that up?
well, to me, it boils down to, do you use the income approach or the replacement approaches, or not replacement, but the purchase price? And I would almost be willing to send you back and see if you could get the additional 2 years' data to run the analysis to see what if that changes it much. Because I agree with Commissioner Moser, you're in kind of a blighted area over there. It's a tough area. So I have some compassion that way. That's why, to me, it boils down to which approach is the best way to look at valuing this property. Is it the income with the 3 years data to give us a trend, or the purchase? Commissioner Bullock,
Well, let me,
you're the accountant of the group.
according to the assessors, that was purchased a year ago, June 16th, 2024, is that date?
That was a typo in the packet. It was actually June 2023.
Okay, so 2 years ago right now, which the appellant agreed at that point that the value was $3.8 million, because that's what they paid for that property. So, and it's probably the only hotel that's been sold in the last 2 years anyway. So the value was actually set at 3.8 less $750,000 for the business income. So, so I sometimes, if you don't use the income approach, the value was set with a comparable sale within 2 years ago, which was only a year and a half before our January 1st mark. So and that property is valuable to somebody. How much that property would turn over, and whether you remodel it or tear it down to the ground, the property itself that's a valuable piece of ground right there. So,
Well, the ground, absolutely.
well, but as, are they gonna tear it down? But boy, when you put $3.8 million in it, you wouldn't think you'd be prepared to tear it down either.
True, but at the same
So-
time, I go back and look at their purchase price, and I agree with you. 2 years ago, coming out of COVID, was a couple of big travel years, which, again, you bought it based on the income generation
Yeah.
of the property, which is not there today. That's why I say, because it's a business, we have to look at it, I think, a little bit differently than just a standard piece of property. So that's why I'm kind of inclined to, again, go back, give them some more information and see if you can use the income approach on that to justify. Because if you don't use the income approach, you guys are right, the purchase price is what it is. And
I'm at $3 million.
okay,
Which is, by I assume your recommendation, the assessor, is $3,050,000 and not 34 cents.
That was the purchase.
But I mean, that
price.
was just that was come in there. So again, I agree that there's more than one approach here. I'm always a little bit scared of income approach, because being an accountant, that number is always,
tell me what you need.
yeah, what would you like the number to be? So I'm not saying that isn't, but those scare me, just going strictly on income approach, because it's a different number to the IRS than it is someone else. And so going totally on income approach scares me just a little
Well,
bit.
it's the one we had earlier where the guy for $800,000 sold the business to himself.
Yeah,
Right.
It
Because I
can
want
be,
the value on my records.
yeah, so, I mean, I'm sympathetic with the case because that is an old facility. I think
Very old.
they've been there forever. But obviously, 2 years ago, there was enough value there that you thought you was gonna be able to make it there. Whether it makes it or not, and you've already put some money into it,
Yes.
which, well, more power to you if you can make that work, but scares me. Old buildings are still old buildings with Band-Aids on them.
Yeah.
So-
You had a
Yes.
question?
I just wanted to clarify a couple of statements. I understand your conversations with other hotels. The way we look at it is, you can have a hotel that does $1 million in sales. You can have a Marriott that does $3 million in sales with the same staffing, just because they're able to command a higher ADR. And then the cap rates, the 6 to 8 isn't quite the range. You're usually starting at 7.5, going up to 12, 13, depending on the type of asset. Because in today's date, if you get into a hotel at 6 cap, you're getting into negative leverage because your interest rates are in, high 6s or 7s. So we own other hotels as well. I have the La Quinta that we own here. Again, our ADR differences are so high. We're selling more rooms at a lower cost, so our profit margins are a lot lower. Whereas if you're selling rooms at a higher number, higher ADR, your operation cost difference variance is minimal, so you're able to transfer more to the bottom line. Having said that, the area has just been challenging. We've tried our best to revamp it. Part of the reason why the sales went down, the previous owner just wasn't attracting the right crowd. And we've had multiple conversations even with the county, Chubbuck City Police. They had so many calls, and we've got the Grand Idaho Inn over here, or the extended stay, which is just trouble. And we still try to weed out all of the bad ones. We'd rather keep our place nicer than attract that type of crowd to just try to, increase revenue.
Okay. What do you guys want to do?
So, Mr. Chair, on parcel RPRCIGP 000201, I'd make a motion that we adjust to $3 million.
Okay. We have a motion. Discussion. Let me ask the assessor, if you were to go back and get a couple more years of data, how much do you think that would impact the price of $3 million?
I think it can certainly have an impact. I mean, I'm sure that two of the commissioners remember this property's come before many years over the last many times over the last 7 years at least. And so we certainly know the history of some of the struggles the property has had. So looking at that 3-year history, in addition to the room income and whatever lease income the bar and the restaurant bring in, there's certainly the possibility that could result in a lower amount. It's hard to say till you run those numbers.
Well, I just feel like we as a county have bent over backwards trying to help. And like I say, the 80% depreciation and the 50%, I just, you either gotta make it or break it. And we can't just keep going lower and lower and having the county taxpayers make up the difference.
Commissioner?
And in addition, the reason I'm gonna do what I do is you can bury a lot of capital in there that's not gonna ever be reflected on your income statement. But the capital will actually build the value of your assets, the balance sheet side of that. If you keep fixing the roof, if you keep doing that, that's really not part of the expenses, it's more of the capital improvements, which I'm hoping you'll continue to do. And so with that, I think I'd probably second going to the $3 million and hope like mad that you can improve that and keep going with what you're doing. And it'll also give you an incentive to, keep records and see what it is, and hopefully that thing will resurrect itself.
Okay.
So,
Okay, with that, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
aye.
Opposed, nay. So the decision was to put the value at $3 million?
Yes.
At $3 million.
You will receive a letter in the mail. Should you choose to appeal that decision, you can do it at the district court or at the State Board of Appeals. Okay? All right.